remember there was a cat next to me in the cell, and he was a active gang member from Hacienda Heights, and I remember they had him blue banded because a family member of his was high ranking in the LA County Sheriff, and he was telling me, "Oh, I'm still good, you know. This is not by choice, this and that." So they take us down because Fresno County's there to pick us up, and he's going up to like Modesto or something, and he's a Southsider, you know. He's gonna have a lot more to answer than I do, you know. So they put us down in the cells, and I remember it was funny. I had the LA County Jail blues on the pants, and they gave me my clothes, my regular clothes, to dress back out in to put me on the bus to go to Fresno County. And I kept the LA County Jail blues on and put my pants over it because I thought it was cool to, you know, like, oh, if I can get these out, you know, I'll have some LA County blues. Yeah, they hit me with another charge of stealing property. Yeah. They didn't find it until I got to Fresno County. So I get to Fresno County.
You got a warrant back in LA.
Yeah, yeah. I already had plenty of warrants back in LA because they were building the case. Yeah. So they get me back to Fresno County. Right when they take us into Fresno County, when I had gotten jumped before and they had taken me to the hole in Fresno County, there was a white boy back there, and he was with the business, and he said every time he comes into Fresno County, he just, right in the holding tank, he just takes off on the first bulldog he sees. And he said they just take him straight to straight to where people like him, you know, go. You know, they take you right where the active white boys are. And so that was my thought process, you know, right when I get into the holding tank where the phones are, you know, I'm just going to take off on the first bulldog I see. And that's what I did. So they took me to the hole, kept me back there the whole time. I went to court on it. They gave me rehab because it was a drug offense, and my dad was always got me a lawyer. He thought, you know, as long as I throw money at the problem, you know, that's me being a good dad, me taking care of it.
Like so many parents.
Yeah, so I got an attorney, went to rehab, was actually doing good in rehab, stayed clean, and as soon as I got out of rehab, my dad was doing pretty bad at that point, and I moved back in with him and was staying with him, and this was about the time that I got introduced to the needle. And he was shooting up morphine at the time. He wasn't doing heroin or oxys or anything like that, but he was doing morphine at the time. And I remember that first time that he shot me up. That was when my love affair began. You know, it wasn't even so much.
Damn, now I don't feel so bad, bro. That's a similar story. We share the same story there.
Yeah.
That's the first person to put a needle on me.
Yeah, and honestly, like, do I look back and think, like, I hate this man? No, because I know how I am in my drug days, and I disregard everybody's feelings, anybody that cares about me. I'll steal from you and help you look for it. You know, like I was the dirt bag, lowest of the low. But did I still love my family? Absolutely. And do I feel like my dad loved me? I do. I really do. But I just feel like he was that bad in his addiction that
he thought he was doing the right thing.
He didn't think he was doing anything wrong, you know. And he knew I was taking pills and doing shit like that too, so I don't think he just stuck a needle in my arm without me knowing. I wanted it, you know. I wanted to try what he was doing, and like I said, from that day forward, I didn't care what you put in that needle. Like I was shooting it, you know, and I didn't care if it was, you know, coke, oxy,
battery
heroin,
acid,
yeah, Jack Daniels, like stick it in my neck, man, like. Smut peddler stay. Right. What the heck? Got a needle in my neck. So yeah, I got introduced to the needle at this point, and I got really bad, and I started mixing cocaine with it, and that's when I went off the deep end and started robbing drug dealers. I started, and I was staying up in Fresno at the time, and I started burning every coke dealer in town.
Everybody,
Yeah, that everyone knew my name around town. You knew if you were messing with me, you were getting a bad check or an IOU or something. And I mean, I had little homegirls that I'd go over to a drug dealer's house and I'd send her in to
make sure everything's good.
I'd send her in to get to get some drugs, and then I'd be going in through the window stealing the stash. And I mean, I taught, my dad shot me up for the first time, but then I taught myself how to shoot up, and I was shooting up everywhere, collapsing veins left and right. And anytime you shoot up opiates and cocaine, like your veins collapse that much faster. And I remember I had this big ass abscess on my arm, but it was like the only spot that I could really hit a vein every time. You go into a bathroom, man, I'd go into a bathroom and I'd spend an hour in there just poking, dude. Like, look like a pincushion, blood all over the walls because it's coagulating, and I'm trying to clear the rig, and but I had this one spot, man, and I remember sticking the needle in so hard one time that the needle head busted off in my arm. Still didn't stop me, man. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't try to get that needle's probably still in there somewhere. I don't know, worked its way out. I don't know what it did.
It worked.
It's killing me right now. So I got addicted to the needle, and right around this time was when I had a buddy. He showed up at this girl's house that I was staying at, and he picked me up, and he's like, dude, you're getting home. And I didn't want it, and I fought tooth and nail, but he talked me into like, hey, if I buy you some dope and you get high the whole time, driving from Fresno to Orange County, because that's where I was going. I was going to the Phoenix house in Orange County. And that's how he convinced me to go. Well,
a strict program.
Yeah, I did. So I went to the Phoenix house in Orange County. I remember showing up. They wouldn't take me because the abscess was so bad on my arm. So I had to go over to St. Joseph's Hospital, and they had to drain it, pack it. I watched the whole time because I knew this wasn't going to be the last abscess I was going to have. And I'm not going to the hospital every time I get one. And so they cleaned it out, and they sent me back to the Phoenix house. Well, went back to the Phoenix house, and I kicked hard on that one. And
cold turkey,
man. They're not medical detox. Yeah, exactly. Here, we're getting up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Here's a Snickers bar. Go to work. And so I remember getting clean in there, and it was about the third week. I was on my rack in there. Phoenix House got kind of dorms set up where they got probably 50 bunk beds in one dorm, 50 bunk beds in another dorm, and I was sitting on my rack, and I remember a counselor came in and called my name. They said, hey, your counselor wants to see you up in the front. So I thought, shit, what'd I do, automatically. So I walked up there, and there was a room, like a day room kind of set up with a TV that everybody used to hang out in at night. And both doors were closed on it, and I knew something was up. And they walked me into the room, and right as I walked in, all 4 of my cousins were there. They were all sitting there, and I could tell something was wrong. They were all crying, and I just walked in and was like,
fast.
Yeah. I walked in, and I was like, what's wrong? Nobody could say anything. And finally, one of my cousins got up and came over and gave me a hug, and she's like, your dad's gone. And I remember the first thought in my head was,
I'm out of here.
Well, first thought was, where's my brother? Because I knew he was still out. My brother was a partier too, and he was doing his thing at the time. He wasn't nearly as bad as I was, but I knew he was going to take it hard. Him and my dad were really close, and he was younger, so I sheltered him from a lot, and I had a little bit more resentment, but it was still my dad, and I remember thinking, thank God I'm in this rehab, because if I wasn't, like, I'm gone. You know, off on a sick one. And so they let my cousins take me, and we went to the funeral. It was back in Fresno, and they took me back to the rehab, and I was clean at the time, but I had met this girl.
Of course you did.
And it was always a girl.
Of
Like,
course
I
it
always
was.
felt like it was a girl.
Of course it was.
And you know, it's always a girl that talks me over the ledge. No, it's always me. But so I met this chick, and man, this girl was gangster as they come. She was seasoned. She was tatted back. You know, she had dated Hispanics.
Was her name Sharon Needles?
Her name was, I don't want to say her name.
Yeah, I know.
She's no longer with us. But yeah, so she's the one that introduced me to heroin. She introduced me to black tar heroin, man, and that's when
things got real bad.
Things got real. I thought it was bad enough.
Right.
Things got real bad. Yeah, so I went through the program, was staying clean, met this chick. She was staying clean, but she had gotten out of the Phoenix house before I did. And she came from money. Her dad got her an apartment, and she already had a spot set up. She used to come on my day passes. She'd come pick me up, and we'd go out, get high, and I'd come back to the program. Yeah, exactly. You know, I stayed for my family. You know, it wasn't for myself.
Right.
Like, I just stayed so they'd get off my back and, you know, think I was doing good. That was always, you know, I was a liar, man. That's what drugs did to me. I lied about everything. And so when I got out of the Phoenix house, I moved in with this chick, and that's when she got, you know, I got bad, man. We were robbing I thought I was robbing drug dealers by crawling through windows. She was wanting to go in through the front door with pistols and zip tying them, and this girl was some of the shit she would get me to do, man, was gangster shit that I never thought that I would be doing. And
catch that on Patreon.
Yeah, I'll tell you those stories. You got to pay for those ones.
Right. You had to.
Paid with skin. So yeah, so I was bad, man. I fell in love with the heroin, man, and got really bad into slamming dope. Had multiple overdoses, and, you know, the money train was running dry. You know, we robbed all the drug dealers we could, and so at this time, man, I had shot up so much. I mean, she'd shoot me up in my back, underneath my arms, that I had collapsed every single vein in my body, man. And I started, just to get well, I started muscling it. I'd start muscling it, my butt cheek. Just muscling it, just to get well. And I started getting abscesses on my butt, man, and I'd have her cut them and drain them. And I remember I had a little apartment that my grandparents were paying for that I hardly ever stayed at. But I was going over there to pick something up, and when I walked in, my cousin, same one that was there that told me what my dad passed away, was sitting in the living room. And he said, "Hey, we're going to go for a ride." Now, I made up every excuse in the book not to get in that car,
Sure.
but I went to leave, and my truck was already gone. You know, they had already, yeah, they already had it planned. So the way he talked me into going is it was going to be a medical detox. It was called the Orange County Detox, and it was going to be Suboxone. So I thought, oh, okay, so I won't kick as bad, you know. So I went to this detox place, and they started me on Suboxone, and everything was honky-dory for about 2 days. And then my vision started going. And then, you know, I got to where every time I take a drink of water, felt like I was drowning, and got to where I couldn't keep my head up. I couldn't keep food down. Now, at first I thought I was having an allergic reaction to Suboxone. My mom was calling. I talked to her on the phone. She'd be like, "What do you want?" Because I was slurring my words. Well, they took me to the hospital because I couldn't keep any fluids down, and the hospital had hydrated me, and they just said I was dehydrated and kicked me back. They took me back to the house. That night, I almost drowned in my sleep because I was laying on my back and the saliva was like choking me. So what was happening is my body was starting to shut down. So they rushed me back to the hospital the next day, and I remember I was in the emergency room, and a rare infectious disease doctor was walking by and was overhearing the doctor talk to the shadow that went with me, because anytime you leave the detox center, you gotta have somebody with you. And the rare infectious disease doctor heard what the doctor was saying, and he came in and he looked at my chart and he's like, "What's going on?" And I remember he made me stand up. He took my gown off, and he saw my ass, and I had abscesses all over my butt.
Necrophiliosis?
From shooting dope and
Yeah.
not cleaning them out, it was getting into my bloodstream. Well, what had happened is I got botulism.
Yeah.
And for the people out there that, because I was one of them, I was like, wait, what? What the hell is that? What's botulism? Anybody that's ever had Botox or anything like that, like that's basically what it is, but on a bigger scale, where it's attacking your nervous system, attacking your organs, everything, and shutting everything down. And I remember the doctor telling the other doctor, like, we got to get him in for an MRI, and we have to call the CDC in Atlanta. So what they do is botulism will basically just shut everything down until you stop breathing and you just pass away. And they have an antidote for it at the CDC in Atlanta that they have to fly in, they have to bring in by armed guard, because they can't take a chance of any bioterrorists getting a hold of it. And they administer it into your body, and then either your body takes it or rejects it. Yeah, and it's not a just get well, you're bounce back overnight. It's a year-long process of getting back to normal. Well, they took me in to get an MRI. By this time, my whole family's at the hospital. I'm at Hoag Hospital down in Newport Beach. And